go. Right, Jean, can I start? Or are you going to start?
Can I start?
Go.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to We Connect International in South Africa webinar on e-commerce, Rising to the Challenge. Happy International Women's Day 2021. We're delighted today to have an expert speaker on e-commerce. Justin will share some amazing information with us around how his successes on e-commerce have shaped up. He's really an amazing expert. I was honored to be able to listen to him on a WPO webinar last year, and I thought we must actually bring him on board. We have 6 women business owners who are using e-commerce platforms for their successful businesses, very varied businesses, from baby wear, very bespoke baby, angel baby, to amazing wines, to amazing beauty and spa products, to amazing sportswear. So this is going to be a great session. We have a lot to learn. We want to share with you so women continue to rise to the challenge, as we must even at this time. I'm going to hand over now to Justin Drennan, who's going to take us through the whole session. The session is a 90-minute session to allow for the real in-depth sharing. So Justin, thank you for your time, and over to you.
Thanks, Jean. So as mentioned, we're going to take you through some of the entrepreneurs and their current businesses, just to give a bit of an idea. As you mentioned, Jean, there's the Angel Baby team. Shahima sells kids products or baby related products. So that's the first member on our panel. We have the indulgent spa products, Miranda. Hello, Miranda, we see you there. Got your products are dealing with distribution to spas and other such products. Lover Food and Beverages, Lorata's over here also. Aiming the potential sort of online retail business focusing on wine and food. Montflair Sports, focusing on sportswear. Traditionally supplying teams of sportswear, but from what I understand now, also supplying own brand sportswear, which is interesting. Palm Express, Zada, hi Zada, also focusing on gifting and food products there. And then I think the last one is Marissa, the spa consultants team, which is less of a direct to consumer, but a distribution B2B play. So I said, let's go. So we've got a lot of stuff to get through today. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to condense a 6-day sort of session into a 30-minute session. So there's a lot of slides to go through. And what I've tried to do here is just paint the picture of what we see happening in e-commerce, so that you get a basic overview of what's happening. We've been involved in a number of online retail businesses over the years. We were investors in a business called Superbulous.com, which is an online fashion retail business. We built Macro's e-commerce platform, Macro.co today. We also have a business called Wanted All, which specializes in products from the US into South Africa. And then our last business is a business called Parcelninja, which is a warehouse and distribution business where we distribute products for a number of online, about 100, just over 100 different online retailers' products in South Africa. So the first thing to remember is that e-commerce has changed. Gone are the days where you can sit in South Africa, build an e-commerce site and acquire customers. What we're seeing now is there's a proliferation of cross-border transactions globally. So there are no longer geographies protecting individuals or businesses online. We've seen proliferation in products out of China across the world. And China has become the factory or the country that produces a lot of the world's goods cost effectively. So no longer can you just bring in products from overseas and try to sell in South Africa. You've got to differentiate yourself. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, just think what happened to the DSTV team over the last few years. Previously well positioned in South Africa, no challenges. Netflix arrives on the scene and there's issues. So you can't think of your business in South Africa as being protected. Just think of it as someone's going to be coming from overseas all the time. At the same time, what we need to remember is in the US, there's almost like a winners take all strategy when it comes to e-commerce. So the big guys become massive. And the difference between the number 1 and number 2 player is huge. So in the US, you've got Amazon, eBay, Apple. In South Africa, you probably have taken a bit of our Macro in a very, very similar way, we're assuming. So it's just important for us to realize that there are these single big players in these markets take or have like a take-all strategy whereby they dominate and own the market. And this is largely brought about by marketplace solutions, which I'll go through a bit later. So I guess we have to ask ourselves, what's changed in online retail in South Africa over the last year and a half or last year? And how do we compare this to what was happening in South Africa? So the first thing that we've noticed in a sort of post-COVID e-commerce environment is that there's no more weekends in online retail. So previously, when you used to have a store and you see these little dips at the top there, this is from our e-commerce platform. You can see we do about 20,000 visitors a day there. There used to be these little dips that you always used to see on a Saturday and a Sunday. And the reason why you saw those dips is because everyone used to browse the internet and do shopping from work. Nowadays, if you look at the bottom chart, you'll see that there's no longer these dips. In fact, the weekends are busier than the week, which is quite interesting. And what we see there is very similar to what you see in the US. eBay's biggest days used to be on the weekends. And that was in 2009. And we never saw that in South Africa because everyone had to browse from home. Now that everyone's got access to mobile phones, et cetera, the people are starting to browse more over the weekends and shop on the weekends, and weekends are busier, which means that you're running a 24-hour, 365, so 24/7, 365 business. It's always on. So when you think that I'm going to run this e-commerce business and I'm going to get sales while I sleep, yes, but you've also got to support people while you sleep, which is important. Just something. And at the same time, with the whole COVID proliferation, we've seen the number of people coming online go up. You can see it started at just below 500,000 users we have on our site every month, and now sitting at just over 1.25 million users a month. So there has definitely been growth in e-commerce, just like everyone tells you, it's true. Also, something to remember, 2019 versus 2020, number of people visiting our site from mobile devices up from 60%, now sitting at 70%, which means that what you must remember is almost everyone browsing our sites, probably your sites as well, are doing so on their mobile phones. So the thought process is mobile first must be in your mind. Don't browse your website on your desktop computer. Browse everything on your mobile phone so that you understand what 70% of your customers are actually seeing. What we also see change over the last years, we've seen this whole on-demand sort of thing proliferate as well. You can have a look at this. Is on the left-hand side is iOS, and the right-hand side is Android. But you can see like Mr. D Food, Uber Eats, Checker 6060 bottles. On the right-hand side is Mr. D Food, Uber Eats, Debonair's, Checker 6060. These are the most popular apps being installed. You can see that people are starting to shop from home, buy their food from home. If I look back a year ago, pre-COVID, no one cared about groceries on demand. Suddenly, groceries on demand in South Africa is a thing. We estimate the Checkers guys are probably doing over 250,000 deliveries a month, just on their sort of home shopping 6060 network, which is massive. At the same time, when it comes to e-commerce, Google Shopping is the dominant player in that space. What that means is that you have to be on Google Shopping. So gone are the days, so people start their journey from an e-commerce search perspective on Google in South Africa, which means that the first thing they see is the results that I've just showed you there, showing you bags, etc. And that's the Google Shopping results, where it shows you a picture of the bag, the price, where you can get it from, etc. That's where 85% of the clicks go. So when people talk to you about organic search and Facebook and Instagram, etc., yes, those are channels and they're quite big, but when it comes to Google, this is the place to be, is Google Shopping. So if you're not on Google Shopping, you're actually not capturing the market. And gone are the days of where organic search is the number one driver of clicks or clicks for e-commerce sites. E-commerce sites is largely a Google Shopping dominated area. And at the same time, what we're seeing is people are becoming more prominent and expectations are increasing from e-commerce. So you can't really take an order on a Monday and deliver on a Friday. With, as I said, with the on-demand, people expect things quicker and people become more vocal about it. So it's interesting, Karabo's got, I don't know how many thousand, probably like a million followers. When she has a bad experience, she tells everyone about it, which is quite interesting. And she says, look, guys make mistakes, but they ignore her. So people are quite vocal when they're not having the experience they expected. But at the same time, what we're seeing is it's actually never been easier to launch an e-commerce site in South Africa, globally. And I'm going to just take you through some of the quick steps that we've seen. So the first thing is everyone's always starts, well, they don't know which platform do you use. Do you use Magento, BigCommerce, WooCommerce, OpenCart? These are all the platforms supported. Basically, if you're starting your business, you pick Shopify or WooCommerce to launch your business. The rest of these are slightly more advanced. But the point is that the platforms are largely done. It's no longer you don't need a dev team or a bunch of IT degrees or anything. You can actually launch your e-commerce platform relatively simply and easily just by going through the Shopify process. At the same time, you go, oh, payments are so difficult. There's like 20 payment providers. Pick one, they all do the same thing. Within South Africa, they support credit card, they support instant EFT, they support recurring billing. All of those things are supported by a huge number of payment providers in South Africa. And Shopify comes with a lot of this built out of the box. However, if you want to use another payment provider, there's almost no difference between a lot of the payment providers, other than maybe some of the EFT payment providers. But credit card, we see credit card being 80% of all online transactions in South Africa. The remaining 20% is EFT payments. On payment on receipt or cash collection, not very big in South Africa at this stage and not supported by many e-commerce platforms or courier services is the challenge. At the same time, warehousing, if you have scaled up your business and you don't no longer want to run out of your kitchen or your garage, warehousing solutions that exist in the US are now available in South Africa. This is one of the businesses we run. So there's where you leave your products in our warehouse and we'll do the picking, packing, and order management for you. You don't have to worry about anything. As the business scales, we do all the heavy lifting. That exists in the US, and that's how businesses have grown tremendously from an e-commerce perspective, is to get the best players in a particular sort of expertise to help them out. And ours is around fulfillment. Then people talk about this pickup from store or collection, also done in South Africa. This gives you a view on or a map in South Africa what Pargo supports. Pargo is one of the collection points. You tell the person that you're going to send it to, for instance, Sandton City or the V&A waterfront at the clicks there. And when they get there, their parcel is waiting for them. And Pargo supports this facility as well. So you no longer have to worry about home deliveries. You can also send to collection points, which is cool. Same as lockers. If you don't want to go into a physical store, don't worry, you can ship it to a UTR locker and people can collect it. All of these things exist. I'm not saying everyone makes use of them, but the point is that the technology does exist in South Africa and is available. What we've also seen in South Africa with the change with COVID is that FMCG is starting to get in on the Retail Act. So previously, FMCG used to work only through big box retailers, and FMCG is fast-moving consumer goods. We now see that FMCG brands are going direct to consumers, whereby you can buy from them directly at competitive prices. And even online, this is happening. So previously, you would never been able to buy Dettol online. Dettol now has a store on One Day Only. One Day Only runs a special, I'm not sure how frequently, probably twice or 3 times a month, where they sell a large portion of FMCG products, where you can do your monthly shop out for products. Also, what we're seeing, brands are going direct. No longer do you have to go buy Adidas from the store down the road. You can basically go onto adidas.com and you can buy directly from them every single shoe they have available. Same thing's happening with Nike. You don't need to go to the Nike store. You can go to their store or you can go online to shop. If you'd gone 5 years ago in South Africa, you wouldn't have had this experience, which is interesting. So the brands are all looking to get closer to consumers, which I think is important for brand owners. What's interesting with a Nike delivery here, if you see their delivery is 250 Rand and arrives in 4 to 10 days. What's interesting is that Nike doesn't actually have a presence in South Africa, and this is shipped directly from the Netherlands to South Africa. So if you remember my first slide showing how cross-border is starting to happen, this is an exact example of this, where you're buying something and you don't even know that it's coming from another country, yet it's going to arrive here in 4 days. Duties paid, etc. So now you have access to every pair of Nike shoes available globally. And that's their bigger brand strategy. Also, luxury brands weren't online. Suddenly now you can actually find them online. I remember when we started our business back in the day, around the mid-2000s, there was no way that Mont Blanc was ever going to be online. There was no way that many of the pram manufacturers were online. Now suddenly everyone's realized they've got to be online. But at the same time, there's some issues with online. So I think what's important for us to remember is that speed of delivery is a big component of from a reordering perspective. A lot of them think same day delivery is important, and it's important to understand that delivery times are there. And they're happy for couriers to come onto their property, which is cool. So I think that people are understanding that they can get deliveries done to their house, but what's critical is that they know when the delivery is coming and it's quick. What we're also seeing in South Africa is traditional retailers are starting to get in on the act as well. Woolworths online now, Pick n Pay online, Macro online, TFG online. 2 years ago, you wouldn't have seen as much of this. Now it's a key component to their sort of omni-channel retail strategy. And at the same time, there's a proliferation of marketplaces. So marketplaces where people can sell their goods on another site and pay commission for it. So in other words, here we see that overseas, eBay, Amazon, and Walmart all run marketplace businesses. So me as a manufacturer or me as a brand owner can list my products on the Amazon site or the Walmart site or eBay and sell my products and pay them a small commission for the sale of the goods. So this is huge overseas. Now, how big is it overseas? Well, on Amazon, roughly 60% of all the products sold on Amazon, Amazon never owns. They're sold through a marketplace. So people sell their products on Amazon that they make in their homes or they import from overseas. And that's where Amazon's seeing their growth. And what's very important is the marketplaces are very efficient. So they enable the big retailers or the big marketplace sellers to actually have quite competitive pricing because they're just taking a small commission and people, the marketplace sellers are able to negotiate their own prices or adjust them as they need. And at the same time in South Africa, marketplaces are here. You may not know that already. So when you buy off Macro, Take a Lot, Loot, or Bid or Buy, all of those are marketplaces. So you can now buy something off Macro and it's not owned by Macro. If you went into Macro stores, you wouldn't find it. It's actually shipped by someone who's selling the product on Macro, which is interesting. And the same applies to Take a Lot. But in order to do that, you need proper infrastructure. So it's a whole different set of investments and difficulties. And this is what an Amazon warehouse looks like overseas. Notice how the shelves are, notice how it shelves everywhere. It's not high racking. This is so people can get around it very, very quickly and pick products. If you work in an Amazon warehouse, you normally walk about 16 kilometers a day, which is just interesting. And what's interesting about the marketplaces we're seeing is that 40% of Amazon.co.uk's new sellers are based in China. So they're shipping directly from China to the customers. So that people are no longer setting up offices or facilities or infrastructure in a host country. They're shipping straight from source to countries. And this is a critical thing to understand for the future of e-commerce, supply chain, logistics, and retail globally. They're not going to open offices in the country. They're just going to ship. So I think that's something to be important. But the opposite applies to us. So if we can manufacture something, yeah, we can ship it abroad also, which is really cool. And this is what we see is cross-border transactions happening out of China in trillions of dollars. So from 2018 to 2022, more than double. So that's something is happening there. And what you also got to remember is Amazon now ships to South Africa also. You see the little flag there? You can buy something off Amazon and they will ship it directly to South Africa. So even Amazon's going to go cross-border. Quick thing that we just need to understand, 40% of the top e-commerce apps are international apps, which is also interesting. Check us, Take a Lot, Superbalist, Wish, AliExpress. Those sort of things are big players overseas and they are shipping stuff to products. They are shipping products to South Africa on a daily basis. What's also interesting on Android, #1 app, wish.com. I think everyone's been using that. So that's just something just to be aware of. When people say that e-commerce, how big is it? Well, #1 is Wish, which is massive. So I guess the question is like, why are we going online now? And there's lots of reasons. I mean, like I said, it's always open. Corona's here. People are home. Data's cheap. Where are people getting the dopamine hits from or the enjoyment? They're no longer getting it from shopping. They want a place to do it. Shopping online is now actually like a form of enjoyment for people. No longer they go in the store. They want to go and they want to shop online and go through that process. And I think the tools to sort of enable online retail are now available. And we've also seen that online retail has become more habitual. So after a year of being forced to stay at home, everyone is now starting to shop online, which is important. So I guess, here we go. What are we going to do about all of this? So we've got 10 minutes to go through a few slides, but we've got to do something. So the first thing you got to remember is that these are the stats from March to June. What's happening in the malls? Far less people going to the malls. I think the numbers are obviously better than what they were, but definitely not back to the levels that we originally saw. We're seeing people pivot from eventing businesses to now making furniture. So using the ability to build stands and settings for big events. They're now using the same capabilities to build furniture, which is quite interesting. And home desk furniture, we've seen a big increase in. The eventing guys have all gone virtual. I think this is like the way it's kind of gone. So gone are the days of going to events, and they're now running these sort of online eventing where you can pre-book. But in order for us to do something, I think we need a bit of a plan or some sort of, we need to like get some idea of what skill set we're going to be making use of. And let me just tell you what the first thing to remember is that even the pros don't know what to do. So you look at Pick n Pay, you look at Macro, you look at NetForest. NetForest is suddenly selling vegetables and hot meals. Macro's partnered with a company called OneCart, which is a small delivery business. Never would you have ever seen Macro work with such a small organization. They Walmart, they only deal with big, large organizations that know what they're doing. Yeah, they're dealing with startups. Same thing for Pick n Pay. Pick n Pay is suddenly willing to deal with a startup business that it would have previously never used. So the fact that agility is more important than this, if I can call it the track record of the business, is key, and they haven't been sure what to do either. So when you sit and you're not quite sure what you should be doing from a business perspective at these times, it's not just you, it's everyone. So what do the retailers do, I guess is really the question. The first one is said is, well, we need to make sure we're getting paid, and that I think is largely sorted with Peach Payments or one of the mobile providers. That's just integrated with Shopify, you enable it, off you go. Get onto the marketplaces. There's very little downside on listing your products on a Take It on a Macro, a Loot or Bid or Buy. It's just an additional channel for you to get exposure and sell your products. We think that it's, depending on your brand, we think it's a great way for you to get out there at very, very low risk. But as I said, just get going with Shopify to start with. We've seen that I was able to launch a Shopify site for a friend of mine in a matter of 3 hours using a template and some basics, and get a thermometer and COVID site up to help the guys during that period. It's exceptionally easy to use, and there's a lot of help available there. But I think what's also cool is what we've seen is when dealing with customers, we've said that we need to make it quite easy to deal with each of them. So what we've seen is make a phone number available. You have to have an email, let them SMS you, let them WhatsApp you, get a chatbot, be on Facebook, have an Instagram account. And even though this fragments all of your communication channels, we've seen that different people like to communicate in different ways. And I always tell guys, yes, it's not great to have all these different things you got to check all the time and see where messages are coming from. It is a big hassle, but at the same time, you're taking orders. So we think that just having those communications or trying to unify them in one way is something that will happen over time. But in the meantime, we've just made all of these channels available, and you'll be surprised how many people use each of these. WhatsApp ordering has become a massive thing we've seen also. People just want to communicate over WhatsApp because it's a nice informal way. Answer questions, send them a link over WhatsApp where the product is, assist them in the sale process, very easy. Courier. We've seen a number of couriers exist in South Africa over a period of time. And over the last, let's just call it over the last 5 months, we've seen the quality of delivery increase in South Africa. When there was lockdown, post-lockdown, there was a massive backlog in orders online. And almost all the couriers had big issues with all the deliveries and managing the large volume of deliveries. We see now that whether you go with the Dawnwing or the courier guy, or almost any courier, rates are relatively similar, service is relatively similar. Pick one that you feel is best suited to your business and go with that. But we think that it's largely solved and it's largely solved in South Africa and easy to use. So courier is easier. Next thing, and I've spoken to this before, is you need to learn how to use Google Analytics. Google Analytics is probably the most important success factor when it comes to understanding what's happening with your marketing. Not only what's happening with your marketing, where are you marketing, where you're generating revenue, and it can tell you every single place where you are earning money. And it's important to understand your return on investment and your customer acquisition cost. So in other words, how much money do I make from a sale versus how much does it cost me to get a customer? So if I sell something for 500 Rand at a 20% margin, which means I make 100 Rand profit, and it costs me 80 Rand to acquire the customer, it cost me 80 bucks to make 100. That means I've made 20 Rand profit. I must find more of those individuals. That's critical. So just understanding those basics give you an understanding of where you should be spending your marketing budget, and Google Analytics will help that. At the same time, what you have to understand is also the lifetime value of a customer we've seen. So these are just some of the like high end or sort of, if I can call it, critical success factors from the marketing perspective, but we have to understand how much is a customer worth in a lifetime. In other words, if they spend 100 Rand with me every month and I make a 20% margin, then it's worth 20 Rand a month to have this customer in our database. So you need to understand how much you're willing to spend to generate that 20 Rand a month. And at the same time, you understand what your budget is. We've always run our business without a marketing budget. And what I mean by that is we've always had a marketing return on investment budget. So it's not we're going to spend 10 Rand in marketing or 1 million Rand in marketing. We said we will spend however much we have on marketing as long as we're getting a return, which is positive. And that's really critical to us. And Google Analytics, once again, lets you understand that. And also what you have to remember is that acquiring customers and building brand is exceptionally expensive. People underestimate how much it costs to go build a consumer-facing brand. If I look in one of our businesses, I can see we spend just under 10 million Rand on marketing. And if you have a look at the bottom there, it just shows you the number of customers and how they've increased since 2009 to 2020. So there are customers out there. The problem is you've got to work out how much it costs you to get them to see your brand, your business, etc. And we find people underestimate how expensive it is to actually acquire customers, which is critical. And with Google Analytics, you have to understand Google AdWords. So you need to understand how much you're spending, how you're acquiring the customers, what the lifetime value is, and how much you're spending. All of that is available in AdWords and Google Analytics. So I implore you, please go have a look to see how you can best use those. At the same time, we've got an SEO versus paid click strategy we have to look at. The basic story there, SEO costs you money to invest in long-term reach of customers. However, pay-per-click gives you immediate results. So these are the sort of two things. So when people talk about an organic strategy versus a pay-per-click strategy, we always start with the pay-per-click strategy, and then we take some of our sort of money every month and we slowly build out organic SEO. But it's not something you go into first. It's incredibly long-term, difficult, and also competitive. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, normal story there. We see, take all of you, the same way that I talk about Google marketing, it's the same thing that needs to happen across Facebook, Instagram, and other social media channels. Primarily in fashion retail, we see this as massive. Facebook being a key driver of revenue and sales there as well, also important. At the same time, we also see once in a while, there's like a wave that happens. So whether it's Father's Day, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, massive search volumes when those events happen. So we say, try get ahead of those and build marketing campaigns around these events, because suddenly there's a massive increase in volume. And if you're there to take advantage of that, you can do something with it. So we can just see, it's just Father's Day clicks 85,000 in a day, us running a campaign there. You ask, well, where do we get our traffic? We get paid traffic is 60% of our business, organic 26, brand 10, and then everything else. So that just gives you some idea of where you should be focusing. So we say Google paid, organic, brand. Those are three places we get all of our traffic from. So focus on those three. At the same time, the tools of the titans we like to refer to, these are the things that people are using to ensure the success from the e-commerce site. We've got Google Analytics, AdWords. The one that's interesting there is Microsoft Bookings. If you run a business that requires bookings, they run a booking service where you can effectively set up like a hair salon or anything that requires bookings. They've got a tool that allows you to do that. DocuSign for signing documents, Quote Roller that lets you do quotes. We use remote call centers. We have daily huddles, live reporting, and we have a B2B marketing team that we made use of called the Firing Squad, which is also able to help us bring in sales from a B2B perspective. So I'm just rushing through the last 2 years. Also, what we've got is we've got a tool that we built for Parcelninja that if you need to ship any product around the country, we can give you quotes in real time across multiple couriers so that you know you're getting the best price. We've built this tool out, and we probably ship a few thousand orders a day using this. So we give this to small e-commerce players, and they use this to make sure they're paying the best price from the courier. That's something we built with Parcelninja, and that's one of our businesses. And then what's key we found with e-commerce is that perfection is the enemy of progress. So while everyone's busy sitting there trying to build the perfect e-commerce site for months, just getting something up and running, putting it out there, testing it out is more important than getting things perfect. So I think that's something that's critical for us. Is like, stop sitting and trying to get it perfect. Just get out there and do it is the critical thing for us. And you'll learn a hell of a lot by doing that. And then I guess that's the end of what I've got, Ajit. And I'd like to just see if there's any questions from anyone about all of this. I know there's a lot of areas we've covered. I've spoken really quickly to try and get through as much as possible. So I apologize for that. But I'm open to any questions and anything. And I thought that Jean would start by just going through each of our sort of e-commerce entrepreneurs or individuals that are running businesses and just hear what's the number one challenge they are having and see if there's a way for us to maybe solve for those now, assist with it, because I think they're going to be relevant to other individuals at the same time. Is that all right?
Great, Justin, thank you so much for that. That is a lot of information very quickly. The one question I can see on my screen right now is around, does MS Booking allow for payment? And now it's just clicked. Does it allow for payment as well for a small business?
When I last tried it out, they had a payment solution in there. I can have a look again, but there are people that we know are making use of that. I think we just try it and check.
Great. And Dawn, the recording will be shared. And I'm back to you, Justin, to introduce the ladies and continue with the panel discussion. Thank you.
Shima, you're up first. How are you?
I am like, thanks, Mac. I think it's the A, being Angel Baby. A and B is first and second.
That's what happens.
Okay, so yeah, thanks for having, I'm just so excited to be here. So I'm the co-founder and customer director for an online brand called Angel Baby, and it's an online baby store. We started the store in during COVID because we were sitting and doing the math about how many babies were going to be born. And the challenge that people would have in finding beautiful linen. So Angel Baby is part of a mother brand, Mal Air Linens, and they've been in business for 20 years. And so we wanted to bring the same concept. But the biggest problem that we wanted to solve with the store was to allow people, our products and services, to connect family, friends, near or far, to this major event in the life of whoever they are buying for. So it's all a bespoke service, and we took really care of the entire experience because my background is in client experience. So you can imagine I was like, no, it's got to be like this and that. And we just wanted to solve that problem. How can you contribute to a gift that has longevity? So every time you walk into the room, you would feel that your nana gave you that gift. Even though your nana is not there, they can feel that you are there. And that's what we wanted to do. Thanks.
That's perfect. My question to you, Shem, is what is your biggest issue or challenge that you're having from an e-commerce perspective now?
So exposure as a brand new, online store exposure in a saturated market where everyone is online. So two of the things that you were speaking of, our biggest challenge was actually not building the site, because I built the site using Shopify. Took me a few days, and that was sorted and was very easy. But it's obviously combining your a well-rounded comms strategy that includes having the right view and insight to ensure that I can have an eye on the pre-sale part, during the sale, and the post-sale, and then just obviously leveraging every avenue that I can to promote the site and drive traffic to the site. So that is our biggest challenge at the moment.
Cool. And okay, then I'll turn around and say, have you solved both of these, or what have you done so far, just to understand?
Pardon, can you repeat that?
What have you done around these two things so far? What's worked and what hasn't worked?
So we made friends with Google Analytics. We have employed someone to actually, who has the skill and the time, because time is the biggest factor to promote the site. So some of the things I'm happy that you showed us, we'll be adding that to the basket. We have also joined a bigger distributor, Takealot. We are about to go live on Takealot in selling our product, because that obviously gives us access to 30 million visitors a month or so. So the market is there. And so that's how we're trying to solve that problem.
So just coming back to my initial, so the problem being around the ability to market the site and get it out there. And my comments around how marketplaces have become large components of retail in South Africa. You've decided to take your own brand and list it on a third-party site to help drive sales, which is great.
Yes. Yes.
I think what's critical for that is when you're sending the products to your customers is to make sure that your branding is large enough so that even though it's going with Takealot, they know about your brand. So the next time they want something, they might go and search for it in Google and find your site. So what's important when using marketplaces is that marketplaces, while they are important, they have the ability to capture your customers because you don't know who they are, because you're going to be sending the products to Takealot, so you never see your customers, so you never own them. The big move is to try to work out how your branding can be strong enough on those products to entice or bring people back to your site over time. So the first purchase must happen on Takealot. The purchases thereafter, you want to come back to your brand potentially. So I think that's an important one there.
Yeah.
So Shahima, keep that in mind. And
I will.
I'll give you a quick example. GHD, the hair iron, they did something quite unique. On all of the GHD hair irons, they put a unique serial number and they told people, please go to the GHD website, put your serial number in, and we'll extend your warranty by 1 year. So it doesn't matter where the hair iron got sold. People went back to their site, filled in their details, and then GHD had their details. Now GHD, doesn't matter what channel they're sold on, they know exactly who their customers are. And I give that as an example. That's something quite cool to think about, because now once you've got your list of customers every month, firstly, you probably know the age of the kids and you can take them through the various stages, and you can, you know how to communicate with them. So thanks, Shahima. I think that's cool. So that's your one. Miranda, what's your drama? I feel like I'm just like some therapy line here while you're on mute. Bring me your issues.
Okay. Thank you so much, Justin. It's always amazing to listen to you. I always learn so much. And hi to everyone on the call. I'm Miranda's the Kiddies, and I'm the owner and founder of Indulgent Spa Products. We were essentially a wholesale company, although we've always had a website. But with the digital opportunities coming around and COVID, of course, we've increased our focus on our B2C market. So we do have two websites. We operate in South Africa and also in the UK. And to answer Justin's question, our biggest challenge is actually trying to sell directly to the international market because of the courier costs. They're incredibly expensive. So we're very fortunate because people see our gowns in hotels and then they want to order them. So they'll pay 3,000 rand to buy 2 gowns, and then they have to pay 4,000 to actually get them into Germany. So that's one of the challenges we've got. We've solved it to a degree by fulfilling from the UK. But now, of course, Brexit messes things up because now we have duties and customs that we didn't have before.
Cool. So Miranda, can I tell you a story then?
Sure.
So when I moved to Cape Town, let me give you a story. So it's interesting, when I moved to Cape Town about 4 years ago, I was sitting at the office there, and I'm not a big coffee drinker, but I always remember seeing there was this coffee called Black Insomnia. And their tagline is, it's the strongest coffee in the world. And I always saw this coffee sitting there. I was like, yes, that's quite a statement. And eventually one day I was sitting at the office there and some guy was sitting next to me. So I just had a conversation with him and he told me, no, he looks after this coffee brand. So I just said, with such a strong tagline, why are you not taking this global? Strongest coffee in the world. That's a massive value proposition. And he said, no, it's too difficult to do it. So I said to him, but you can sell in the US. It's not as difficult as you think. Going back to your UK story. To which his response was, no, it's a huge story. It's not. There's something called Stripe Atlas, which allows you to set up a company in the US completely remotely. Stripe is the payments provider in the US, and they've set up a system which enables you to set up an offshore entity or offshore business. So I took him through the process, and it's quite tedious. And he went and set up a Stripe Atlas account. He then went and shipped some of his product to an equivalent Parcelninja in the US. I mean, there's plenty in the UK and Europe and the US. They exist already. And listed his coffee on Amazon, which is a slow process once again. Yeah. But he ended up selling more coffee in one day in the US than he sold in South Africa in the last 3 months, which I think is an interesting thing. So if you have a unique product that can stand out, that is searched, these marketplaces and these international markets are way bigger than we anticipate. It is a long and difficult story to get listed there, don't get me wrong, but it's but if you get it right, it's worth it. Coming back to your principle of shipping out of South Africa abroad, you can never run a business out of South Africa shipping products abroad from South Africa. Does not work. As you said, the cost of delivery is prohibitive. There's duties. There's all sorts of things you need to worry about. The only way to do it is to ship a consignment of goods or a certain number of goods to a facility in another country, somewhere in the US or somewhere in Europe, and then market from there. The next challenge is that, sorry, Brandon, I'll just the last thing. The one thing is, it's great to list your gown on Amazon.co.uk. The problem is, how many other gowns are there, and how do you differentiate your product? And you need to go through the process of getting some people to buy your product in that country and then leaving reviews, which is critical in these marketplaces. In other words, results, the search reviews impact search results as well as the number of purchases. Review data on marketplaces, especially in the abroad, is the number one predictor of purchases. So I think that's critical. But the way that you've gone and done it is correct. In other words, you have to ship products to Europe somewhere, leave them there, list them on Amazon, eBay, and the other marketplaces, and sell like that. So I think that's the right way to go about doing it. The question is, how do you get noticed amongst all the other gowns, other than people searching for your brand? Because yes, people will search for your brand, but that's that much. No one knows about your brand. That's how do you get noticed is the real trick. Yes, go for it, Miranda.
There was just one more thing. So we did it for the UK, but we found that the payments actually, like to do Shopify payments, they don't accept South African companies. So we had to have a company in any case to get it through into the UK, but we also needed a British bank account. So I don't know if Stripe works. If the
Stripe
US
does, in the US does all of that.
So they accept South African companies.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's perfect. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miranda. Next, Lerato. Lovely to see you.
Good morning, everybody, or good day. My name is Lerato Pretorius. I am the founder and owner of Labo Wines. Labo Wines is currently having 4 varietals. It's Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, Merlot, and Sauvignon Cab Sav. Our strategy was to interact with our customers directly, but we got the route awakening with COVID, and we had to look at something different. We are in a difficult space because we're already in the food and beverages, but because we our wines are bottled and produced in Cape Town. We take pride of that, and the strategy that we have was to create an environment where we put together our customers to enjoy proudly South African wine made in South Africa, and sell it to the world. Now, because we are small and we already have the platform where we have mystery deliveries and other platforms, we had to go to the challenges that we have was to go to the third party. Currently, we with the Mall of Things, and we are attached to a restaurant where there is pickup point, and it is not easy to promote our wines because we wanted to make one-on-one. I think we have the challenge with the first speaker where we wanted to go with other direct with our customers, but we had to go through the third party. Currently, we have our online store, but it is linked with a third party, and the third party has got mystery delivery and Uber Eats. So we want to know how we can go about it so that we can get the traffic to come to our website and order.
Thank you, Lerato. I guess we've seen this quite a bit in the wine space, in that we've seen a large number of orders from the wine brands, which is the first interesting thing. The second thing that's interesting is the wine brands have started to sell more directly, as you've exactly like you're doing. And from a fulfillment perspective, I would say that and talking about owning the customer, I think that's a critical thing at the very beginning, is that whoever owns your customer is able to generate demand, if we can call it that. And generating demand means that if you know who your customers are, you can run specials, sales, notifications, product launches, eventing, etc. So if you run in particular a wine brand, I think it's critical that you have your own, let's call it Shopify site, where you fulfill products and deliver directly to customers, because owning that customer in the wine segment, I think is incredibly important. At the same time, it allows you to customize the experience the way that you want to, which I think is also critical from a differentiation perspective. But also, like you are doing, selling through other channels is complementary. So I wouldn't limit myself just to third-party sales or marketplace sales or someone else selling the product, but I would definitely have my own site that I would run myself and manage a lot more of that process around. I think that's critical. Coming back to what I said in the presentations, and like Shaheen was saying, it's pretty simple to actually go and build out something in Shopify that's quite effective. Cost effective, simple, and you can get something up and running in a matter of days, I think. And I would keep my sales going through all those other channels. And like I said at the very beginning, is how do you make them come back to your website after they're purchased? Is really what can you do on your website that's different to them buying from Mr. D or something else? In other words, what is your GHD serial number extending guarantee hook that you can do? That's really the thing. Is there some new version of the wine? Is there a different vintage? Or is there a reason why they need to come back to your site ultimately? And I think you've got to do something around, I would be doing something around that, while at the same time telling people that they can buy directly from your website, I think is also critical. And a lot of people don't even put their website address or URL on their packaging or products, which I think is a mistake. So I think that's something that people also need to be doing, because that's a way for it to come back to your site to do the transaction. But wine plus Shopify equals easy, in my view, there, Loretta. I don't know if that's answering your question or if that assists you there.
Yes, we do have our Instagram, we have the website in all our advertising. We have
Perfect.
Yeah, we have Facebook, we have YouTube, we have all the social media connected to our advertising. So that's how we get our customers, and we also run our specials. So we try to get our own customers to come and shop again. And we run special through all those social media.
Which one works well for you, Loretta? What is your best performing channel?
I think it's Facebook.
You think?
Yeah,
sure?
It's Facebook it's Facebook and Instagram. People like pictures. Yeah.
So there we go. So I think that's something important for everyone to hear when it comes to these sort of aspirational brands or things. We think that Facebook and Instagram are key positions there. I'm not too sure how many people will go search for wine versus being told that there's a particular wine that they should be drinking. So I think that there's a difference between discovery and being discovered on a platform, which is Miranda, like you're putting gowns on Amazon, versus telling someone that they need a gown that they didn't know about. Or in this case, there's this wine that they should be using, which they didn't know about, which I think is also important there. So thanks, Loretta. I think that's very useful for everyone as well. Thanks very much for that.
Thank you.
Malako, are you over here? There we go. Hi.
Hi, everyone. Interesting so far, and the challenges that everybody's coming up with, and I'm like, I relate to almost all of them actually. So my name is Mahlako Mahapa. I'm a founder and co-owner of a company called Monflex Sports. So we are a sports performance and lifestyle clothing brand. And our strategy behind the brand is to sort of infuse African culture and ethnicity in our designs and print work and artwork. But the brand is meant to be competing at a global level in terms of high performance clothing. And we've been in existence for about 4 years. Initially, our product offering was targeted around soccer teams and clubs, and geographically, we had clients within reach of our offices, which was Johannesburg and Limpopo area. But since COVID, which some were fortunate enough that we gained quite a lot of traction with clubs across the country. And now we've had to now go back and reassess how we're going to be able to service some of the clubs and the fans that are now not within the geographical reach of our offices. So we've had to set up to make sure that our online and e-commerce system is fully operational. And I think some of the challenges that I think we've had, the biggest one was the integration of our accounting system with our e-commerce site, because we've got so many product lines. I mean, in terms of number of products, we've got so many, and yet we've been building our accounting system for the last 2 years. So we had products that were on the system for the last 2 years, but we did not necessarily want to put them out on our e-commerce. So I think one of your slides, you mentioned that perfectionism is the enemy of progress. So we were literally going about ticking through item by item to try and make sure that, you know, what we don't want does not go on our e-commerce site. And it actually prolonged our launch, our relaunch of our e-commerce. And at some point, we had to, how we actually sort of managed to deal with that was we had to draw a line in the sand to say, this is the deadline where we're going to, the day that we're going to launch. And from there, we decided to sort of phase in products at a go instead of wanting to have everything on at the same time. And I think that has sort of worked out for us. And another sort of challenge that we had, I think it's what Miranda also mentioned, a brand, but an unknown brand, realistically speaking. So somebody can't go on Google. If you're looking for a Nike or an Adidas, you literally are going to go and search Nike sweater or whatever the case might be. So we are, on the other hand, we are not a brand that's known. Somebody's not going to go look for us to look for a sweater, to look for a vest or whatever the case might be. So how then do you get our brand out there? Because we've interestingly, because of the space that we play in, I mean, some of our clothing is showcased on SuperSport and it goes out throughout the rest of Africa. So you find people that were trying to buy some of our stuff that they couldn't access because we did not have a fully functional e-commerce system. I mean, we had a middleman that had a client that saw some of our stuff because of our whole ethnicity design and all of that, that they were like, oh, they want, a middleman then came up and said, I have clients that are looking for your soccer jerseys in the UK. And we had, because we did not have access to them directly, now we have to then give our sort of a shipment to this middleman that we actually have no control of who the end user is at the end because they bought bulk items. So it's, how do you then get a brand like ours, particularly a clothing brand that's trying to compete at the highest level, to be noticeable and noticed on such a platform?
Sure. Well, thank you very much. That was very cool. There's a lot of stuff to go through there. I think what's interesting is you brought up the integration between your accounting/ERP system and the website being a key challenge. And when we did a big implementation with a large organization once upon a time, a similar issue is that all the stuff that you didn't really care about in your business that you could almost like keep below, out of the customer's eyes, and we don't have that product anymore, just leave it on the system, or we don't, that might be wrong, or that might be wrong, don't worry about the spelling, or it's not capital lettered correctly, and all the description, we don't need a description, all of that, they call it master data is the term they use, and all of the master data around your product and the quality of the data around your products was subpar, but it never was a problem because you never saw a customer, it was your internal usage. It's common, is my first comment there. There's something called a product information master, or PIM, is a system that the big companies use to manage this. And it extends further than just having a picture. It's all the pictures of your products, the top, the bottom, the in, the out, the back to front, the sides, and it's stored in your product information master. Your descriptions, your videos, your help, your sizing, all of that goes into a product information master. Your version you show for the web on mobile version versus the desktop version store different versions because the mobile, they want a shorter description potentially. All of that, they have systems that manage that called PIMs. So I think that's just an important principle, but it's not uncommon. So I think what you've seen there is what everyone's had in the past. I think it just talks to us about when we run businesses, how much these little details in the back come to bite us later on in life, if I can call it this, and how it came out in this process. And it's not a small delay. It's like, we don't have pictures of our products. It's like a major problem, actually. You don't have any picture. You're going to put, how do we not have pictures? It's like, we didn't ever sell to anyone in this way. You went there and you showed them a jersey and they bought the jersey.
Yes,
so it's interesting. And then you need to go to a photography studio and you need to get it done professionally. And I mean, your site looks great, which is well done for that. But don't underestimate how much effort goes into product photography and getting it right. So well done there. I think that's critical. So people need to understand that. But let me also tell you that that is a differentiator. So having that data and doing it well lets you get sales. And when no one else has that data, you get the sale. So it's important to invest in that data, especially if you want to sell your products through third parties or list on Takealot or on overseas Amazon, etc. You have to have your product information. The rich content is critical to the success there. And it's the size curve, what it's made out of, your maybe a sustainability story that you have, or something around your ethnicity that you mentioned about Africa. I think there's so much in the story that you have there. You need to put that into your product and in your descriptions, especially if you want to sell it overseas. So that's my first comment. Second comment is the integration between all of these platforms becomes quite difficult. And I think that's something I guess that we've left out, is that in order to get your e-commerce site or your e-commerce platform to talk to all of your other systems, it's normally a bit of a story. What we found, we make use of a third party called Stock2Shop. I'll type it over here for you quickly. Stock2Shop. And what they have is they've gone and built out integrations between lots of ERP systems and lots of e-commerce systems. Game changers. So they've got the ability, for instance, for when a product is sold on your website, to push that sale into Sage for you potentially, and then also push an order to us in Parcelninja so that we fulfill it. So people use the Stock2Shop system as a thing to bind all of these disparate systems together into a single automated process, which we found to be quite cool. So just go have a look. If you guys are looking for integration between ERPs and e-commerce, Stock2Shop and the guy, Chris there, great. They can do everything. Coming back to your principle around how do you as a brand get noticed, it sounded very similar to Lorato's challenge that she has and how well she's doing with dealing with that. Because Lorato's up against all these other wine brands. So the question is, how does your wine brand stand out from other wine brands? First problem. And secondly, how do you sell your wine brand overseas, which is also a story. And people shop brands. And coming back to your comment, is they search Nike shoes, Adidas shoes. No one searches shoe. Doesn't happen anymore. So what's also interesting is in certain countries, they might search for sneakers, not shoes. So coming back to your metadata, so when you brand overseas, you've got to know what you're talking to. It might not be track pants, it might be called sweats. You know, so it's just an interesting thing to get those terms right for the various markets that you go into. So I think the question you've got to ask yourself in this is, do you want to go through a distribution partner or a distributor in Europe and give up margin for someone to run that for you? Is the question. And I heard your, it didn't sound like you were happy with it, that you wanted that to happen. But what we've seen is that a lot of times is like taking these brands overseas and taking them on is very, very difficult. I think there would be a lot of value in having a chat to the people that have launched the Veldskoen brand in South Africa. Veldskoen and Plukkies, I think. Jean, we can talk about that. They've managed to take a South African brand and globalize it to a large degree. Selling in Australia, the US, Ashton Kutcher invested in their business. I think that's a success story from South Africa that we need to hear about and see what they've done and learn from how they've been able to take brands and transcend this hyper local focus around South Africa and take it into global brands. I think they would probably be the people to speak to, which I'll organize next to have a chat to, because I think they've done something unique in that space there, which I think they're far better at building brands than I am. I understand processes and systems and that. I'm not a brand building person, but I think that building brands, the one thing I am sure of is that building brands are far more expensive than we anticipate. I think that's what we've seen. So whatever we thought we needed to build a brand probably would cost 5 to 6 times the amount. When we were raising money for Superbalist, I still remember we said, we probably need 10 million rand to build the business. We got laughed at. We told you 100 million. But they probably spend more than that. But the point is that it costs more than you think, and in particular, international markets. Yes, the markets are way bigger, but they're also way more competitive too. So that differentiation, like you said, is a key success factor in my mind around that. But what Loretta has been doing well, it sounds like Facebook, Instagram, influencer marketing sounds like a thing that should be done around one of those. There is something that I think would be well suited to what's happening. Maybe Loretta, you can even add 2 cents there, because I think you've done a bit of, or imagine done something.
Can I just add something?
Go for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Interestingly though, we've gotten traction on Twitter because we have sports fans that interact on Twitter. So that's where we get a lot of traffic comes through from Twitter. So we initially had invested in somebody sort of building our Instagram page, and we're like, wait a minute, this is not yielding much. But on Twitter, because all the clubs that we work with are also active on Twitter, so that's how the traffic gets directed from us. But with Twitter, it's an instant. You deliver something wrong, then it just one client writes a review on Twitter and it just goes viral, controlling all that. So that's, yeah.
We'll talk about how to get it wrong offline second, okay? When it comes to shipping. I think there's some value we could probably add with you there. But Loretta, go for it. What do you see?
Okay. I think people like pictures and they like stories. When we do a lot of stories on Instagram, that's when people get attracted to the story, and then they place orders or they do inquiry. So they normally do inquiries through our website because everything else it's included. Our website, our Instagram, our Facebook, our YouTube, all of them are in our package. So they will do the story. They like stories. I don't know, the story lasts for about 24 hours. So they like the story. And then they do the inquiry through the website. And also on Facebook, they like stories. So they're all interlinked. So people do the inquiries there. For us, those Facebook, Instagram, it works for me.
The question is, are the wine drinkers also the sports people? That is the question. How do they overlap between the two of you guys? I'm a firm believer, funny enough, that a lot of the smaller businesses need to start like cross-promoting some of their products if there are adjacencies in it. I think that's also something that us as small business owners aren't doing enough of, because we guard our brand so much and we believe in them so much, but we actually need to collaborate more with people that are similar. You know, I'm not saying that it's a wine and sport thing necessarily, but I'm trying to say is we need to find businesses that are also that are similar to what we do, similar customer bases, and see how we can help cross promote between all of our businesses. I think that's something that should happen more often there. But there we go.
And Justin, can I just add, and if there are any babies that are born out of those collaborations, yeah, I've got you covered.
There we go. We'll take that. I like that. That's cool. That's cool. Zaida, where are you?
Hi, I'm here. Thank you, Justin. Hi. And hi, girls. My name is Zaida. Excuse me. My core expertise actually lies within events, international events and exhibitions management. And, you know, in 2020, when the world was going mad and everybody was looking at new revenue streams, I decided to kind of pool in my expertise with procurement and logistics and my creative flair. And I thought I'd start a personalized, thoughtful online gifting store for people who want to send their loved ones a gift that is curated to suit the personality of the person receiving it. The store that we created is called Palm Express. And in July 2020, we kind of started with 6 products, and we've now graduated to offering a corporate gift concierge service to our corporate clients, an expat concierge service to South Africans living abroad. And I think one of the key factors in starting this business is that I wanted to also help female entrepreneurs. So one of our aims was to secure at least 90% of all of our product from female entrepreneurs. And I think that we've been very successful in that space. So the online journey has been educational. It's been scary. It still is scary, I have to admit. but it's been exhilarating. And, you know, and I'm absolutely, you know, I'm so chuffed that I kind of embarked on this journey, because it's been something completely new and something completely different. And I kind of rose to the challenge. So, yeah, so we've faced quite a few challenges in our business. You know, I've learned to manage our website. I've learned Instagram and Facebook and how to post. But I think one of the challenges that you can try and help me with, Justin, is this. I know you spoke about Google Analytics. I'm not sure whether that falls into the ambit of my question, but I find that, you know, we post a lot of stuff. I personally, you know, I curate a lot of my own product. I write up a lot of the content because I want to be personally involved in my product, in my brand, in the growing of my brand. But I find that, you know, when we post specials on Instagram and on Facebook, as an example, I can't tell how many people who view our product on Facebook and on Instagram, who like our product, are actually driven to our website and who actually click on our website, and then that visit to our website is actually converted into a sale. So I can't really tell from the traffic, I can't really tell how much traffic is actually driven from those platforms onto our website. And I'm just wondering whether there's a way, and something that I'm missing, and how I can kind of manage that and try and help and try and use that to convert some of those sales into, some of those visits into actual sales.
Cool. Zayda, thank you very much for that. Firstly, well done for everything, because it's quite a daunting task to get involved in this e-commerce. So well done for rising to the challenge, as you said. And I think that people are more adverse to change than they think, but they have more ability than they realize as well. So you don't want to do something because it's new, but then you realize that you actually can do it, which is I think a theme that's been prolific through this sort of COVID experience. Your story around you're not too sure what's bringing you sales is the old 50% of my advertising is wasted. I'm just not sure which 50% is the story. I don't know if you've heard that. And that, which is 100% correct. And that's not uncommon. The Google Analytics part that I spoke about briefly, and I did mention this the other day, is so undervalued and so critical in the success of your e-commerce business that's probably your second most important thing to get right, other than building the site. So your question is answered completely through the Google Analytics component, as long as the transaction happens on your site. But Google Analytics will show you who's coming from where and what they are doing, where they're clicking, which products are they adding to their cart, where they're going on your website. Did they create an account? Did they check out? How much did they spend? How much did you spend to get that revenue in? So it ties all of that together into a single place. So it's critical for you to look at that and understand that. And I think that once you start down that Google Analytics journey, and it's not that difficult. If you've got this far, Google Analytics is relatively simple. That will give you insights into where you're spending your money and what value you're getting back from those channels. So put a bit of effort in. I would put the effort in analytics. It's been a key consideration for success in our business. And I think that'll help you sort out your question around that. Incidentally, I would imagine that the type of products that you do, it looks quite difficult to ship them around. So from a scalability perspective, I think that's just something to be aware of. But I think that in the new age of like hyper specialization and customization, I think it's a nice way to stand out with these gifts that are thoughtful and highly customized to the individuals. I think that's something that's really great that's needed. So I think that's a really, really cool opportunity. Yeah. And it would be interesting to see how many of the gifts that you have could be from some of the other ladies on the call, which would also be
looking forward to it. I'm so looking forward to that.
And that comes back to my comment at the very beginning, which is like, everyone needs to collaborate a little bit more, which is very cool. And I'm big on this collaboration between small to medium-sized businesses because I think it's the way to go. So I think that's something that we need to sort of push a little bit more through this process out, which I think is quite cool. But thanks so much.
Justin, can I just say something?
Yeah.
That Miranda and I from Indulgence Spa Products, we collaborate a lot. I use quite a lot of her products, not just for my corporate clients, but also my private clients. Because like I said, her products are beautiful. And in order to curate something that is personal, and unique, you know, you have to work with brands that are not just amazing, but brands that are 5-star as well. And Miranda's and you know, Indulgence Spa products, those products are exactly.
Tick the box. There you go. So I think that's the important component there. So that's well done to that, everyone, because I think that's what this sort of stuff is also about. Is like these communities and groups. The more we work together, the more we have these sessions, the more we can uplift everyone in the process, which I think is critical. So that's why I think it's a cool thing, Lee. So well done for doing that. I'm big on that. Right, Marissa, you're up.
Hi.
What's your drama of the week?
I don't have any drama, just
Cool.
great
Thank you,
news.
everyone.
So my name is Marisa, and we have 2 beautiful brands in a consultancy business. So typically our business is building, designing, and operating beauty spas, which led to the development and formulation of 2 professional brands. So one is a skincare brand called Six, and the other one is a hands, feet, and body brand called Sparlicious. Our site is called Send Me That. Okay, that's the name of the site. We sort of developed it before COVID, before the pandemic, because we really just saw that a lot of people going for treatments wanted to top up their products without having to get in their car and go into the beauty salon. So the site is sort of set up in 2 ways, predominantly as what we refer to a drop ship service for our salons and our spas. So they don't have to keep the stock on their shelves. Their client goes in, signs up, buys, and they get the commission. But it is also, I mean, our goal is to grow brand presence in the country as a professional brand. So we're offering things that are slightly different to retail cosmetic brands. Yeah, so that's us. So I have a lot of challenges, but I'd like to ask you 2 main ones. The one is, how do we differentiate in amongst millions of cosmetic brands?
That's one. What's your number 2?
As I you think about that one, because that's really tough and rough. Okay.
That's the difficult one. Give me. Let's deal with 3 issues rather. How's that?
3 issues. Okay. Well, that's one. And issue number 2 would be, how do we differentiate? I'm joking. Okay.
No.
That's the one.
Yes.
We have a company. I'm not going to mention names because this is going to be recorded, but we make use of a professional service to acquire our customers for us. Okay. So my question to you is, do we need to really have them? Because number one is, I don't really know how to work out our customer acquisition cost. I just look at, what do we pay these guys to find us our customers? Because that's what they do. And what revenue do we make? Okay. And it's not great, the difference. So, I mean, could we do it ourselves, and do we need somebody to do it for us?
Okay, cool. Just on that question, when you say you pay these guys to find you your customers, is that online digital marketing people, I'm assuming? Or is it call center or others?
Online digital marketing company. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So
in the e-commerce space.
Cool. That's not a problem at all. Okay. I understand what you're saying.
And then,
all right.
Can I do one more?
Yeah, go for it. Why not?
The other one more is, how do we stay top of mind to these buyers? Like, for example, Net Florist sends me reminders. How do we easily, without, I mean, we are not a Net Florist. So what would be the first step that we take to being top of mind to people who have bought before?
Cool. Okay. So let's start with that one and work our way back. How's that?
Fine.
Lisa? Right. We start with I'm not a Net Florist, so I know Ryan from Net Florist fairly well, and they do lots of stuff around all these things. However, Net Florist, ourselves, etc., we went and built our e-commerce platforms from scratch back in the day. And so we spent lots of money on this whole digital story and technical capabilities and e-commerce platforms. You don't need to do that anymore. I'm not sure. Do you know which platform you're running off by any chance?
No clue, but I can find out.
That's fine. Don't worry. Okay, that's cool. That's not an issue. Anyway, the beauty of these new platforms, whether it's Magento, Shopify, WooCommerce, is that they've got app stores nowadays. So in the same way that your Android or iPhone has an app store, there's app stores available now for almost all of these e-commerce platforms. And in those e-commerce platforms, there are a lot of remarketing tools or apps available. And the remarketing tools normally work on something called RFM models. Now, a RFM model, everyone, stands for recency, frequency, and monetary value. Recency, when last did someone buy? Frequency, how often do they buy? And monetary value, how much do they buy? Because what you want to do is you want to give your customers offers based on their change in those patterns. So Justin used to come every month to send me that and buy his foot scrub, for argument's sake, or something along those. He must my moisturizer every month. Suddenly, for 1,000 Rand. Suddenly, Justin stops buying after month 7. One of these tools will go, Melissa, listen, Justin is no longer buying from you. He used to spend $1,000 every month. He's gone. We need to do something. What should we do? And you're going to, oh, let's give him 500 Rand off, or a voucher or a coupon or something along those lines. But the point is, these remarketing tools or customer engagement tools are fairly free, or not, are fairly available. They're not free, but those are the sort of tools that are critical to make sure that you remain top of mind, like you mentioned in NetForest, to make sure that you don't lose customers and identify customers that are churning, leaving, or changing behavior are the critical things. And then there's the standard stuff you should be always doing, which is your newsletters, product launches, discounts, eventing, all of those sort of things you have to be doing. In our What's Little business, we send out an email every week. When I send out the email every week, I know I've got 100,000 Rand in sales banked. If I forget to send out the email, I must just throw 100 grand in the bin. So critical success is the email marketing to your existing customers. That's something you need to be doing all the time. I think that's very important. Are you doing something like that already?
We do it twice a month, not once a week.
Cool, that's cool. Whatever frequency you need to work out what frequency you, but the more important part is to stay relevant in those mails, I think, because no one wants to be, you don't want your customers unsubscribing the whole time. So coming back to the conversation around hyper specialization or hyper customization, each of those mails normally through like a HubSpot or one of those tools needs to be specifically targeted at Justin. Justin is a male who buys moisturizer. Send him those. Don't send him products around doing his nails necessarily. So I'm just saying that it's those product mix are critical in sort of in that process there. That I would say will deal with a lot of those issues for you there. So a remarketing tool or a tool that manages customer engagement. Coming to your question around how do I know if what I'm spending is giving me the return on my investment from a marketing perspective. That's our Google Analytics story or talk. But I think what's critical for this, they should be able to show you that. You should be able to do the calculation is I've spent 1,000 Rand on marketing. It's generated X number of, it's a funnel effectively. X number of people have seen my advert. X number have clicked on it. X number have come to the site. X number have signed up. X number have added to cart. I'm taking you through the funnel now. Signed up, add to cart, gone to checkout page, actually checked out, and how much did they spend? And then you will take that and you'll say, they spent 1,000 Rand. My margin is 40%. So I made 400 Rand on the 1,000. I spent 1,000. I got back 400. Is that good or bad? I'm not sure. You need to decide. And the reason why I say you need to decide is 400 Rand. If the person's only ever going to buy from you once, well, you got a fucking problem there. So you got a problem there. If you're going to allow them to come back multiple times and do this remarketing I spoke about, and you say, oh, I've just acquired Justin. Yes, I know I've lost money on his first transaction, but every single transaction thereafter, I'm going to make money. You want those. And we always see our marketing is we need to give something away on the first transaction to make sure that happens. So on what is your opening offer is my question to you. And I see you've got free shipping over 450, which is cool. But where's that? New customers get X. Sign up today, first time buyers get Y. Something along those lines to get me over that initial hurdle for a first transaction. Because the first transaction is the most difficult transaction to get from someone. They land on your site, they don't know who you are, they don't trust you, they've never seen you, have to put in my credit card details. Give me a reason why you should let me have the first transaction. And once you get that first transaction, it's up to you, Marisa, to make sure that you market to them again to make them buy again. So first transaction we see as break even or lose money. Thereafter, you don't have to pay for that Google spend to get the customer back. You've got the database, you've got the telephone number, you've got the WhatsApp. Now you can do something about it. And it's up to you to do your marketing correctly to keep the customer on your books. And I think that's critical. So what we see in the businesses that are successful from an e-commerce perspective are the ones that build up big customer bases and they can then do things with them. And that loyalty and that retention, if you look at it, 2 components, is acquisition, getting new customers, retention, keeping customers. Acquisition can lose some money. Retention, there's no cost to keep marketing to them and you must be able to sort of make them purchase again and again and again through the system. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's cool. Those marketing companies that you were talking about, those ones that are readily available and blah, blah, blah. Is a HubSpot something that you are referring to?
HubSpot will be one. I think HubSpot might be expensive, but there's a few depending on what platform you run. Just look for your platform's remarketing services and off you go.
Okay, cool. Got it. Thank you.
And that opening offer, critical thing. Coming back to your first question, which was around how do I make my brand stand out amongst all the other brands? I'm not 100% sure about that because this is not my game. I'm not a brand expert, especially not in this field in particular. But I think that what you've got to be doing is What
about reviews? You spoke a lot about reviews earlier on. So I'm thinking to myself, maybe reviews, like really.
I would say what was interesting in Superbalist and what people do with house brands is that they put their house or own brands next to other big brands, which then through association raise their brand up to those. In other words, if I was looking at your brand and you had to list this on Take a Look, for instance, the question is, would this come up with other more well-known brands and through that association uplift your brand is the question. That might be interesting. What could you, coming back to those marketplace stories, what can you put with your product to make them come back to your site again? I think that's also something important. But yours, what I've seen work with these sort of products is the whole concept of sampling. I think it's normally quite big from what I understand. How you do that is probably an opportunity across the people in this group, yeah, to see with this complementary, how you could be doing samplings between them. But it is I think that is the challenge that a lot of other people, I think it's very similar. How do I differentiate myself amongst a cluttered or crowded space? I think that's also very interesting.
Okay.
I think.
Thank you.
So I think that answers some of the questions there. Right. So Jean, we've still got time now. I've got another 6 minutes here. I thought, who else from a little panel have any more questions or things that I haven't covered that you think are critical? I've missed out because I'm sure I missed out a lot, but I'm happy to answer any other questions to the best of my ability if possible. If anyone wants to put up their hand. Shahima, I think
Justin,
go for it.
Yeah, I'll put them in. So, selling the product is one thing and you have all of these great things. And I think, Zaida, I think you and I share the same stories about this, is that customer insight, how important that insight is. And I know Zaida, for instance, she will contact her customers and find, was the product okay? Did you, was it in the format that you expected to get it, etc. And she takes all of that feedback and we try and do the same as well. And we will then look at that feedback and obviously either put it into product development, but that's this continuous improvement in making sure that what your brand stands for and promises is what actually the customer ends up with, in other words, managing the expectations. Do you know of any tools? I know of one, for instance, Zendesk. They sweep all your social media pages and they for comments and they bring it into one particular platform and it helps you just manage, who do you need to respond to, etc. Are there any others that you know of that also works well to just help manage insight, because it's such an instantaneous environment that customers live in from an e-commerce perspective?
And Justin, before you start, can you also deal with returns? I don't think we've talked about how you deal with returns.
No, we don't want to talk about returns. That's too difficult. Okay, cool. I'll get to returns now after this quickly. Because returns, I guess no one wants to deal with returns. This is what I deal with all day, so it's fine. We'll get to that. Just coming to that. So I think what you guys should be, what I would be looking at in my business is like I'm not going to call it old school metric, but an NPS, a net promoter score. I think it's something that's critical. So I'm not too sure if everyone makes use of that, but there are tools that allow you to identify who is want to promote your brand and amplify the brand, and people that are wanting to diminish or are not going to obviously promote your brand. And that metric is normally called an NPS, or net promoter score, where you can identify like who loves your brand and who doesn't dig your brand, if I can call it that. And Shema, from what I understand, the Zendesk offering of bringing together all of the fragmented communication channels might not necessarily be the one that helps you as much in this, let's call it going through the product market fit process. You know, you're trying to take your product and make it fit better so that it's easier to sell and it does what it needs to do. I'll have a look. I can't remember what tool we use. I don't know it offhand, but I remember seeing, but then funny enough, they're quite expensive from what I remember. I think we use something called Ask Nicely, I think was the product we use, which after every transaction sends a person a questionnaire and asks them about it automatically and asks them to rate the service, areas of improvement, etc. And it aggregates all of that in a single place and lets you identify who are your problematic customers or people willing to promote the brand. So we use that. Coming to the question around returns. Returns are traditionally the single biggest bugbear for e-commerce. Depending on the category that you're in, there's different return rates which are deemed to be acceptable. So if you are in a clothing space, with let's call it high-end clothing, you should be having probably around, I would imagine, so the last I checked, a 35% return rate on clothing is deemed acceptable, which is massive. So every third thing you send out, you're getting back. And the reason for that is sizing. Let me turn this around and say it's the greatest opportunity in your business, because what you want from a clothing perspective is you want people to take as much as possible, try them out in the comfort of their home and return what they don't need, actually. So you should actually try promote. Don't take one, take two, just return what you don't want. If it's traditional type of clothing, because then I think it lets them have a better experience with your business and allow them to try on more sizes and actually get the fit they want, as opposed to ordering one, send back, ordering one, send back. So I think you should be promoting, if you're in clothing space, taking more products and returning what you don't want. As for the returns process, it's incredibly tricky in South Africa. There's two methodologies I would be using for it. The first is I'd be using a company called The Courier Guy, which are great at returns management. And basically there you tell the courier guy, please go fetch this from this address, bring it back to me here, and they'll run the whole process for you. In our Parcelninja system we have, where you look after your own distribution, we have a returns management tool in there as well, which is quite cool. So you go in there, you say, pick this up from this address, go fetch it, and it'll show you the tracking. It's being collected, it's en route to you, it's delivered to your place, and it gives you all the statuses around that. So we're very big in anybody that's doing deliveries to people's homes. We've got the tools to make that easier for them. That's our gig. That's the first one, is using them, or alternatively is to try get people to drop it off themselves or use one of those pickup box or collection box services like Pargo use. It's normally quite difficult, and there's always challenges around e-commerce returns, other than all you must just accept that there's going to be a lot of stuff coming back, if I can call it that, we see. And depending on the type of product you are selling, there's different acceptable return rates. Marisa, I would imagine yours is quite low for products that people use. But like your stuff around clothing for sports, you're going to have a high return rate. So it's really, there's no one return rate. I think it's just acknowledging the fact that there's going to be returns and it's a process is one of the things around that we find. And as I said, the courier guy has largely resolved those issues for us, Jean, around that. And I think that is everything at 12:30.
Thank you, everybody. I just need to do a very quick closeout for the recording. Then we're going to come back to each of you to just say your closing statement very quickly. I know people have other commitments, but thank you for joining us for this webinar. It was the We Connect International in South Africa webinar. Please remember that South Africa is having an e-commerce day on the 10th of March. We're going to try and get this recording up so that people can log into it on that day. If not, we'll make sure we actually join the e-commerce day as well. Please tweet and tag us, and we want to be able to share your platforms too. This webinar was also in partnership with WPO, Women's Presidents Organization. So thanks to Miranda, who runs one of the chapters for WPO in South Africa, and the ladies who are sitting in both WeConnect International and WPO. I think we need to continue to collaborate and work together in order for us to rise through the challenges, and we can definitely get through the challenges. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, all the ladies, and all of their products are amazing. I know that for a fact. So thanks, everyone. Justin, I'm just going to come back to you for you to do your closing point, and then each lady can just do their closing, please, and then we're done.
Thanks, Jean. I was just going to say thank you very much for the opportunity to help everyone. It's really something that's close to my heart, and helping out entrepreneurs or people going on the e-commerce journey is something that I'm always grateful to be able to afford my time to help everyone with these things. And I'm more than open. If anyone has any questions, just drop me an email. I might not get back to you straight away, but I'll reply to every single email. Don't you worry. So I think that's something that's important there. And I think that there's some work that I can actually do with our Parcelninja business to help some of you guys as well there, which I think is will be quite cool. So thank you very much for your time, everyone. I appreciate it.
Fantastic. It turned into a masterclass. So this is really amazing. So I'll ask the ladies to say their closing remark in the order I can see them. I can see Zaida. Zaida, you're on mute. Can you unmute?
Thank you, Jean. Thank you all. Thank you for this opportunity. It's amazing. And like I said, the journey's been amazing. And I hope all of you just take your businesses online, because that's the way to go. And you don't have to have everything that's perfect. I've learned that just go ahead and do it. And just learn as you go along and tweak things as you go along. And nobody out there knows that you've made a mistake. Just go for it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Marissa.
I would like to say that find your pivot, find what makes you different. And the way to do that is by attending things like this and continuously challenging and questioning yourself. Do surveys and just keep finding what your next step is. That's it. And it's been great. Thank you to everybody. Thanks for your time and all your insights.
Fantastic. Matlakho.
Thank you, Justin and the ladies. It's been a very insightful session. I think what I want to say for my part is just take the giant leap at it, because if you sit and plan and wanted to launch when the site or whatever is perfect, you're actually never going to do it, because I think that was probably some of the biggest challenge, was that we wanted to perfect everything before actually going live with it, and there will never be a time when it will be perfect. So go with it, and you sort of make the changes as you go along, and it's all a learning experience for all of us, but we took the step to do it.
Great, thank you. Shahima?
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Jean. It has been most insightful. I've learned a lot. One of the things in my parting statement is, I just want to urge everyone to never neglect the customer experience. Just because you have that customer doesn't mean that they're going to buy from you again. It is so, so important. So where you can automate your back-end operations, take the pressure off you, and to free up your time to, do more marketing, etc., please invest in that, because there's nothing painful that you see a beautiful brand and you go onto the site and it's just such a letdown, or the start to until you get the product is superb, but then when things go wrong, there's just no one there to help you solve it, and that just really takes away from your brand. So please pay attention to that.
Awesome, thank you so much. Larato?
Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Justin. All I can say is it is important to know that your business is your customers. Look after your customers. Know that it is also important to collaborate And this session for me, it has been a learning curve. And I would like to ask if Jean, all the ladies, we can get together and learn and interact and collaborate. I've seen a lot of potentials to collaborate with some of the ladies. And all I can say as well is e-commerce is the way to go. I would encourage other women out there to go e-learning way, but it is important to learn.
Thanks a lot, Loretta. And then Miranda. Miranda? You should drop off. I can't hear you. I can't see you either.
Sorry, I wasn't managing my unmute button. Thank you so much. It's been such an incredibly good session. I've really enjoyed it. And thank you, Justin. I always learn stuff from you. What I would like to share is, Justin said it is very expensive, and it is. And I think that's one of the traps many of us fall into, me included. You think you're a small company and you can't spend a lot to get your website going, so you go in for the cheap players. Then you think, no, I'll get an expensive person to do it. It really is about getting the right relationship with who's going to support you, because we're not all like Shahima who can do our own website. And there is a lot of spend. I think the other possible mistake that I made, I think, well, this time I'm going to do Google AdWords, and then I'm going to do Facebook, and then I'm going to, you really have to look at it holistically. But the reality is you can't do without having a digital platform, a digital e-commerce. And the way I got around my head for the spending is we used to spend an awful lot of money in physical events. Sorry, Zada, we'll support you as soon as you're back up and running. But for now, so I've just translated the money I would have spent on exhibitions and that kind of thing, and investing it in e-commerce.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. We're over time. Some people are still holding on. The recording will go online as soon as we can, and we'll email everybody as soon as it's available online. So thank you all. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it in this busy time, and look forward to being face-to-face again. All right. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Awesome.